political temperature matters. Now, something is happening, Mr. Mundalo.
Yeah.
The chairman of Stabex International Limited, Jackson Chebet, the gentleman that is said to have been involved in the issue of Tuju.
Yeah.
And Rigathi Gachagua mentioned him adversely on the issue of fuel, has sued former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua for defamation for allegedly linking him to the recent fuel saga. Mr. Chebet says his company is not involved in the government-to-government framework and has no proxy relationship with President William Ruto, as claimed by Gachagua. He says that he has no involvement whatsoever in the G2G framework, no proxy relationship with the president, and no illicit dealings, the petition states. He also says, through his lawyers, that Mr. Gachagua has failed to verify any facts, ignored public records, and deliberately chose inflammatory language to incite the public outrage for political gain. He also says that he has a good standing and have painstakingly built solid reputation solely through merit, transparency, and sheer determination. What do you have to say about it? I have a few things to say about this issue.
Okay.
Because I have always run my business.
Yeah.
And I am not sure to the extent to which Mr. Chebet is involved in the dealings of fuel.
Yeah.
But sometimes I feel like it's very dangerous.
Yeah.
And it is very unfair for a man who has tried, because let's say that he's got a relationship with President Ruto.
Yeah.
Okay? Let's say that he has had some good political dealings. Yeah. But I don't think people start there.
Definitely don't.
I think there is something that you have to build.
Yeah.
Because we could say that SK Macharia is now a very big media mogul in Kenya.
Yeah.
Just like Mr. Murdoch in the United States.
Yes.
But I also remember Citizen when it was scratching like a CD. I don't know whether you were born by then. Horrible.
Yeah.
Like you'd watch it and it scratches literally like a CD. I don't know whether it was a signal issue, but you'd start watching news. Yesterday something happened, by the way, when we were here.
Yeah.
Obunga's net was misbehaving at some point.
Yes.
And you can just see people falling.
Yeah.
Wakitoka kwa live video, because they can't hear, they can't watch.
Yeah.
And that is the frustration that I used to have every time I watch Citizen.
Yeah.
But then Macharia did not give up. He struggled with his company and struggled to a place where people who might have money can look at him and say that, look, what is going on there?
Yeah.
So, yes, I think that people can be having dealings politically, but I think the kind of assassination of characters that we are having as a country sometimes is worrying, because we do not actually know how Stabex started.
That is true, Jagero. You see, I like the example that you've given of SK Macharia. I would want to give a more relatable example, even for the benefit of our viewer, because most of our viewers have been with us for a while.
Yeah.
And I have been part of this political headache for some time now. What it is today is not what it was about 6-7 months ago when we were starting off. At one point, we could not be able to go live. We would just be able to have recorded shows, and then they would be cut, and then they would be up a week later. Sometimes by the time they are
you
up,
used to make so much noise.
Exactly. And sometimes by the time what we have talked about was coming out, it was no longer a subject of conversation for the country, so it was no longer current affairs. So what I'm trying to say is that businesses are work in progress. And anything that people do, they put in a lot of effort and a lot of work. The problem is that our country, slowly we are degenerating, and the freedom of speech is now becoming a freedom that we don't attach its responsibility to. Because your freedom of speech starts and where mine also is able to start. So we can't just be able to say that because of freedom of speech you must say anything to anyone. Some of the words and some of the things we are saying against each other injure businesses. They injure so many things. So we are starting to make it fashionable that in politics today, Jagero, someone would just wake up and say tomorrow you have hosted one of the political leaders on this podcast. Then they just accuse the podcast of being funded by that particular person. And then they cancel you, and it affects your brand like that. Yeah, and it affects so many people, including people who are employed at Political Headache and so many others. So I really, really agree with the move of the owner of Stabex to be able to go to court. If for anything, then just for the sake of ensuring that politics has a responsibility, that we cannot just be able to be saying everything is about freedom of speech. Freedom of speech does not mean you insult others. Freedom of speech does not mean you just pick anything that can make political fodder for you, even if it means injuring the reputation of another person. Because some of these people have built their craft. You can see someone like SK Macharia. He has been able to build this media house that we see today from scratch for over 30 years, I think. So you can't just wake up tomorrow and because you think you disagree with him, you call a press conference as a politician, then you just smear campaign them, and nothing should be able to happen to you because it's politics. No, I don't think it should be like that. So for me, I think it's a step in the right direction. Let us also see what our judiciary will be able to say about such.
Yeah.
If it can be able to stop the smear campaign against the private sector and against people doing their craft, I think it's a move in the right direction.
Yeah, I think I'm also going to